ESO can feel amazing, but by default, it can sometimes also hold you back. You're losing FPS, your combat can feel slower than it should, important mechanics are harder to see, and a bunch of hidden settings are quietly making your gameplay worse. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact ESO settings that instantly improve your performance, combat responsiveness, and overall clarity, whether it's for PvE, PvP, or just casual gameplay. There are some tweaks used by high-level players, but most people never touch them, so let's get into it and fix your game. Before we actually load up Elder Scrolls Online, I want you to go to your File Explorer, go to Documents, and find your Elder Scrolls Online folder. Not the game file that'll be saved in your C drive or whatever, just in your user documents, Elder Scrolls Online, and go down to Live, and go to user settings.txt. This will open up a notepad, and without changing anything, you want to search for set mini frame 0.2. This one, set min frame time 0.2. Now, this is set by default to 0.0100000. This is what caps the game at 100 FPS. So no matter how good your settings are, no matter how high or low your quality settings are, by default, ESO will cap the game at 100 FPS. What I do here is I put the maximum number in that I can that will cap it at 240 FPS rather than 100. So again, without changing anything else, you're going to just take out the 0.01 and you're going to change it to 0.04166667. That 4 didn't go in. 0.0041667. You then just save it. Don't save as, but just save it. Close it. Open it back up again just to double check that's definitely there. And you can see there 0.00416667. You basically take the 0.01 that's there by default and you divide it by the number of FPS you want. I cap it at 240. I don't think you need more than that. My monitor is 240 hertz. So cap it at whatever your native monitor refresh rate is and you'll be fine. So do that before you've even opened up Elder Scrolls Online. Then you can open your launcher and jump into the game. And here we are in game now. I've also disabled all my add-ons just so I'm doing this on like the default UI so you can see it. I'll go through some add-on suggestions at the end for console and PC because you can get add-ons on console now. But what we're going to do is open up and again, this is not just like graphic settings. This is going to be like gameplay settings and things to make your life a bit easier. So I wanted to start with controls first. If you're on mouse and keyboard, I haven't ever tweaked anything on controller, so nothing on that, but I'll just reload the default keybinds. And there's just a couple I change. So roll dodge, I changed to my mouse button 4 because by default it's auto run. You can set that to something else, but it's not something you need on your mouse. I like having dodge roll on my mouse, and I'll explain why in a bit. And then weapon swap, it is this. I think they've added this in by default. This never used to be default, but essentially you want mouse button 5. I don't know why it's not that one there, but mouse button 5 to swap weapons, because swapping weapons is a weapon swapping, your bar swapping in game is very important, and so is roll dodging. So having them two available on my mouse is quite important to me. So that's the only thing I really change in controls. I don't have some really mad key bindings or anything like that. Markers, I don't really use them, to be fair. Nothing else changes. It's literally just those two things. Okay. If you actually wanted to get into it a little bit more, actually what you could do is, I'm so used to doing it the default way now, but probably what a good habit to get into is interrupt. So interrupt by default is block and then light attack. You probably better having this on something on its own keybind as well. For example, World of Warcraft, my interrupt on all my characters is on V. You could do something like that. I'm so used to doing it that way. It's not the end of the world, but it's probably a good habit to get into if you are brand new. Maybe change that. Anyway, let's get into the settings. We'll talk about video really quickly. So I play on windowed full screen technically to get the most FPS, then full screen's probably better, but I alt tab a lot, especially with editing and things like that, or watching YouTube and whatever. So I leave it on windowed full screen. Resolution obviously is just set to whatever my monitor's resolution is. Vertical sync I turn off. Multi-thread rendering leave on. Really good feature that they added. I can't remember when they added it. It wasn't in the original base game when it first launched, but they added it and it really did help improve performance. So definitely leave that on if you've got it. FPS limit, camera adjustment, I don't really touch these. Obviously camera adjustments, just like your brightness. So that is obviously personal preference. Interface, use custom scale. You can mess around with this if you want. You want your UI to be bigger or smaller. I just leave it as is. For graphics quality, now again, this is going to depend on your system, but just a couple of tweaks I would make is I normally leave everything as default that it's set, apart from I turn off the bloom, distortion, and sunlight rays. As you can tell by the bottom left, I was already at the FPS cap anyway, but obviously I'm currently in my house, not really doing anything. Cyrodiil, it's a whole different story. Bloom, distortion, sunlight rays, and show additional ally effects, they can take up quite a bit of resources. Grass, depth of field, and character resolution, we just leave these as low as well. They're the only things I really changed. Ambient occlusion, I'm not sure if that's on, or that was on LSAO. I did turn that off as well. View distance, I personally push that all the way up because you want to be able to see as far out as possible, especially if you're doing open world PvP. Everything else, these are just kind of default. Anti-aliasing, dependent on your system. Mine works fine without it, but if you've got a bit of an older system and you want to run like NVIDIA DLSS and turn it on to performance mode, you could do that if you want as well. Again, doesn't change too much for me. I run with it off, doesn't really affect anything. Same with FSR mode. I tend to leave that off as well. Subsample quality, I tend to leave this on high, but again, you know your system better than I do. If you can get away with it being on high, have it on high, but if not, lower it. But I would recommend, no matter what your system, just these bottom sort of 6, 7 here, just turn these off or keep them on low. Yeah, you'll be fine. But apart from that, yeah. Texture as quality, I always have it on high in every game because I don't like my game to look absolute dog shit. Just for the sake of extra FPS, I'd rather the game still look decent and fun to play. But anyway, that's the video settings. Moving on to audio, not really going to change anything on here. You can obviously, it's entirely up to yourself. You might want the music off. You might want to change these around. I use a Stream Deck and different things for audio, so nothing really gets touched on this, but nothing is really going to improve your performance. It's just entirely up to yourself. Now let's get into things that are going to affect performance or that are going to help your performance in gameplay. By default, combat queues are off, okay? So that means whenever there's a combat queue, whether it be a friendly, like a buff on the ground, or an enemy, you know, red circle dot thing that you need to avoid, they're not that bright in general as default. So I always recommend, and many people do recommend, you turn on combat queues and you push the brightness up as high as you can, and you can test them here as well. And again, you can customize these to your own colors. I don't. These are both just green and red. It's fine for me. But if you want to change it, you can to a different color that you can see more visibly. That's better for yourself. Going back to when I was telling you about roll dodging, on PC, double tap to dodge is default, which is crazy. It's a really bad habit, and it's one that took me a long time to get out of. Have roll dodge on its own key. Don't have it double tap, because sometimes it might not work. It might be delayed. You might do it by accident, mess up a rotation. You don't want it there on your movement keys. Moving down to quick cast ground abilities. This should be on. So quick casting a ground ability. There are some abilities where you can like aim it first before you put it down on the ground. Just have these on. You don't want to have to double click. Again, it's wasting time, wasting rotation time, things like that. Companion autocast. Yeah, that's fine. Leave that on. A gamepad mode, if you want to play on a controller, go for it. Consolidate area loot. I always leave on. You don't want to have to go to each NPC that you've killed or whatever and loot each body. Just consolidate the area loot. Auto loot, that is personal preference. I just auto loot everything and then sell it or deconstruct it. I make sure auto loot stolen items is off, and I prevent stealing placed items on. So if I'm running around a town and I'm pressing my keys for whatever reason, I don't accidentally steal something, get a bounty, and just, ruin my day. Auto after craft bag, if you've got ESO Plus and you have the craft bag there, then obviously you just want this on. Loot history on, whatever. Yeah, that's fine. That's pretty much everything for gameplay. If we go down to camera, so smoothing off, invert. If you're weird, go for it. Assassination camera, you leave that on, that's fine. Screen shake, I turn off. It just makes it look like you're having a fit, which you don't want. First person, I never really use, but third person, there's a couple of things here. So field of view, obviously, I push it out as far out as I can. By default, I believe you can reset to default, which is 100. I have it up at 130. And then the game by default as well has horizontal position and horizontal offset. So your character's like slightly off center sometimes. I like everything kind of bang in the middle. Horizontal position and offset are both on 0 and vertical offset 0 as well. So my character is bang in the center of my screen at all times when I'm zooming in, zooming out. By default, one of them, I can't remember which one it is, offset or position for horizontals, like slightly off to the side. I guess it's to try and give it more of that like immersion RPG feel, but personally, I just prefer my character bang on center of the screen, so that's fine. Nothing else on that one. Interface, nothing really to change on here. You'll be absolutely fine with that. Nothing. Automatic quest tracking. Yeah, don't really touch it. Nameplates. So nameplates you can have on if you like it where there's names above everyone's head. I personally don't. It's very World of Warcraft classic vibes. But that's not really going to affect too much, but it probably could affect performance in a really busy area if you are on a bit of a lower end PC. So worth thinking about first. But health bars, definitely you want health bars on. So instead of having to look at the top of your screen where the standard health bar appears, this makes sure a health bar appears above the enemy's head. By default, it's set to center. I like it on left. And I'll just show you what that means super quick down here. Find a enemy to fight this guy. So this guy, as soon as I attack him, he'll have a health bar. And you can see as I'm attacking him, it's going down to the left. That would go to the center, right? So if I show you what it looked like on the center, this is what it looks like default, right? Turn the frame border off a second. So, and it starts going into this. It's not too bad. It's not the end of the world. I don't know why I'm getting a really weird delay on my game. But that's the default. I prefer it going to the left. So again, I go to settings, nameplates. I have it to the left and I have frame border on as well, which gives it a little border around just so it stands out that little bit more. I just personally like it. I think it looks a little bit cleaner. So left on. You can have your own health bar appear as well. If you want to have it on. I don't like running around with a health bar above my head, but something that is good, or that I used to do, which I don't do as much anymore, but I used to have it so that mine would appear if I was injured. So if I was ever in a fight, especially in PvP, if I took damage, instantly I would see my health above my head. I'm going to try and take some damage so you can see what it looks like. And then it appears until I'm back at full health again, and then it'll disappear, rather than having to look at your health bar along the bottom. That's personally up to you. I have it off because I use an add-on that changes my UI slightly, so my health isn't right at the bottom of my screen anywhere. So I just have mine on as never. But everything else is pretty much default. Group members I have on. Friendly NPCs, no, there's no point. I do it mainly just for enemies and like PvP, things like that. Alliance indicators, I have it on set on enemy. Group members on. That's good if you're a healer. Group members maybe don't need it as much if you're on DPS, but I have it on anyway because I do heal sometimes. So not on my Arcanist, but on my Templar. So I have it on for that, but I'll just scroll down slowly again so you can see what mine are. I don't know how default these are or if these are changed slightly. So just pause it, have a look. But that's my indicator settings there. That's my health bar settings there. And then, like I said, nameplates, I have them turned off. Social, I don't really touch. I'm pretty sure this is all default. A profanity filter, I guess, whatever. Text size, again, that's just personal preference, really. Combat, now we're getting into it a bit. So, by default, again, a lot of this stuff is turned off, and a lot of it is quite valuable information that you want to see, right? So ability bar. So in fact, if I just go default and reset this, because I can show you super quick. There you can see nothing. My health bar, my abilities, I can't see anything. So if you're really going for like immersion and roleplay, fine. Probably this is great for you. But for me personally, who likes to get into a bit more end game content and likes to have everything that I need to be able to see there straight away, I like to have it on the screen. So from the default, if you want to change it to the way I do it and a lot of end game players do it, with ability bar, you would put as always show. So that means your ability bar is always there along the bottom. You can see it down here. Combat. Ability bar timers, on and on. The back row is basically meaning that if you apply something from the back row or any row that's not on show at the moment, you'll have a timer. So if I do this, that has a 13, 12, 11, 10 second cooldown. Not cooldown, but while the effect's going on. And I can now see it when I swap bars on how long I've got left on it. Used to be an add-on I used to use for this quite a lot of the time. But I do think the way ESO added it into the game, it does look quite minimalist and clean, which I really like. So I just have it like that. Under combat, your attribute bars. So again, if you're using the default UI, again, I use an add-on that changes it slightly for me. But personally, I would recommend having your attribute bars on all the time so you can see your magicka, your health, and your stamina. And also, I would, again, personally have number and percent on for resource numbers. So that way I can see my health, what percentage it's at, what my exact numbers are. 13.7, 22.6, 32k. I know they're all at 100%. Turn your ultimate number on as well. It's good to know exactly how much ultimate you've got. Different ultimates cost different costs, or have a different cost, sorry. So I like to have my ultimate number on. And combat text, I like to have this on. I don't turn the pet damage on. I'm not too cared about pet damage, but outgoing damage, outcoming damage over time, outgoing healing over time, things like that. You can have short overhealing on as well, so you know if you're overhealing, but essentially this just means that when I hit an enemy, I now get some numbers above it. And if you're like me, you like seeing big damage numbers to enemies, so to see the big yellow exclamation marks there. And again, same if you're healing yourself, you see there, we just got 8,000 health back, even though I wasn't damaged. That's what the short overhealing is. That will show you how much you would have healed for, even if you're at full health. So it's good to know if you're testing things out and you want to know how much healing you're getting back from a certain skill, things like that. Now again, buffs and debuffs, I have them on always show, but I do turn long effects and permanent effects off. So that way I get these buffs down here whenever I've got a buff going. And again, if you're new to the game, a lot of this jargon might be a bit like, what's where I'm able to see every time I do a skill or an ability, 9 times out of 10, some buff I get. So it's good to be able to see when my buffs are dropping off, what's still up, what's not up, you know, things like that. And you can also see the debuffs above the character's health along the top there, my tentacle debuff friend. See that up at the top of the screen where their health is. But personally for me, I have those turned off because of, again, a user UI, an add-on that changes it. Anyway, so accessibility, if you need the accessibility mode turned on, this essentially changes it to what the console UI looks like. So if you're playing on PC, but you prefer the console UI, because you might not be able to use a mouse and keyboard for whatever reason, or as, you know, to as an extent as you'd like, and prefer to use the controller even on the menus, this will do that. So go for it. And the last little bit I want to talk about was add-ons. Now, I've recently just deleted a lot of add-ons and reinstalled stuff. But if you're on console, 2 or 3 add-ons I'll tell you that are worth getting is Sky Shards and Lore Books, which are good. So I'll reload the UI and show you what they do. So Sky Shards obviously get you more skill points. So this is on a character where I've been around and collected a load of Sky Shards. This was an old character, so I didn't do any real story content on it. But you look at this map here, all the lore books that I didn't collect, I'm not going to lie, I did pay for the Mages Guild in the Crown Store just so I didn't have to go around and collect lore books again. Please don't judge me. But this add-on shows you where every Sky Shard is on the map, whichever area you're in, even if it's an area you've never been before. And you can go to your filters and you can, you know, change it to hide your collected ones, your unknown ones, things like that. So if I go to a place where I might not have, where's one of the newer places I wouldn't have got there? Apparently I have. Where have I not got Sky Shards? Right, okay, here. I haven't done West Wales Sky Shards yet. So these are all black because I haven't got them yet. All right, so you can see there that If I need more skill points for this character, I know I can go to this area and go collect 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, roughly 15. I'm not just quick counting. So I know there's another 4 or 5 skill points for me there, because every 3 sky shards gives you an extra skill point. There we go. We got there in the end. And same with law books. Law books are a bit of an awkward one to grind out. So just having them all available on the map is easy. And this appears on console and as well as PC, obviously. So, and then the other one you can get, I checked, you can get it on console as well, is auto bind. I can't really demonstrate this one, but essentially, and I'll just explain this for anyone who's brand new to the game, ESO has kind of like a sticker book, or what people call it, of all the different sets in the game. Now, I only have 1,600 out of 10,000 because I haven't played the game as heavy, or I haven't done as much collecting as I probably would have liked to over the last few years in comparison to when the game first came out. But anyway, that's beside the point. When you're doing dungeons, for example, let's find a dungeon where I've, got a few here. So this dungeon now, if I'm running through Blessed Crucible and Troll Kings there, okay, I still don't have these three armor pieces for Troll King set, right? I don't know if it's meant to be some kind of bad luck protection, but essentially what happens is when you pick up an item, by default, it will not appear in this. You have to bind it, whether that be wearing it, I think if you deconstruct it, or if you physically go into your inventory and right-click it, the option will be there to bind. If you notice, I hover over this bow, in the top right, it says bound collected. So it's in my sticker book, okay? What auto bind does is literally, you just need to go into your settings though, and make sure you actually do auto bind. Bind it, vendor, bind on collect, and you can change this to legendary if you want. Setting this like this, every time you pick up a piece of armor, if it is not in your little setting, your set items, collections, sticker book thing, it will auto bind it. So it's done for you. You don't have to worry about accidentally deleting stuff or anything like that, or you're running a dungeon and you end up getting multiple of the same things because you didn't decide to bind something till the end of the dungeon. This, I believe, or I think so, people might, with a bit more knowledge than me, might know, but I do believe that this adds some sort of bad luck protection to try and stop you getting duplicates. So having it auto bind the second you pick it up, because I remember back in the day, I've ran a dungeon and got the same piece of gear like 3 times when I was trying to farm a different piece, for example, and I've had to run the dungeon more times than I probably should have before this sticker book thing was added. I'm also going to assume it hasn't auto bound a lot of my older gear, because I know for a fact I do have more stuff in here than what is shown. But that, again, is beside the point, and I don't care enough to go through all my items and find out. But look, anyway, that's a good little way. You follow them few instructions there, you set up your settings like that, you're going to get started off to a bit of a better... You're not going to get in any bad habits. You're going to have a bit of a better start of the game, and hopefully just makes your life a little bit easier if you're learning the game, you're trying to learn it. And even if you're not new to the game and you just learned something new and different, then like I said, I hope it helped, okay? But thank you for the video. There's going to be a lot more content coming once ESO drop what their new content's going to be for 2026. I want to try and get back on the YouTube grind and try and get a few more videos out there about Elder Scrolls Online, because I'm really enjoying it again at the minute. And I'm enjoying it now while it's in a bad spot. So hopefully they pull out something good this year that was better than last year, and we can get into it. But again, hope the video helped, and thank you for watching if you made it this far. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.